So I'm reading first from some poems from Wisdom of the Body, and then I will finish with reading poems from the most recent book, All Fire, All Water. So, oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So, starting with the angels. They are not like the saints. They do not discriminate but come to everyone. Their eyes burn green fire, but their kisses are icy. They can play rough when we get caught in the heavy crossroads that swirl about their wings. They are not above artifice and sometimes appear in disguise. A mask of smeared lipstick, gypsy bangles, or an old man's coat. Now and again, they carelessly give us gifts, an unexpected hobby horse, a day's free babysitting, a poke in the eye with a stick, or sudden slant of light on water. And we are grateful once we figure out how to move within their state of complex blessings. They work within great wheels and circles, turning light to dark and back again. They do not obey the laws of gravity, but laugh a lot and arise at will to hover like vast hummingbirds when we require attention. What they want of us is the mysterious secret we unravel and reweave down to dark and back again. I have never had allergies in my life, and now in my 70s I have developed allergies. So my nose is dripping, and I don't have a cold. I'm not sick. I just think it's allergies, but I'm not even used to this. Anyway, this is the poem, or one of the two poems I sent to Leopold. And it's the first poem in this book, Wisdom of the Body. It's Drowning in Lake Michigan. It is my first, literally my first memory. My first memory is I drowned. Obviously, I was saved, but I have a strong memory of this drowning, and I think I was 2, almost 3. My birthday's in September, and we'd gone to Lake Michigan for a holiday, so it was summer before September. So I think I was 2, almost 3. So my first memory looks up to sunlight through water. I'm on my back at the bottom and have already stopped struggling for air. The sun's full hands overflow, light leaking through the flawless blue. Quiet and calm like a silent song. Mermaid eye, I'm already at peace with my death before my father plucks and pumps me out, sputtering and crying as the water goes out and great gobs of thick air sear my lungs open again. I don't remember the coy ripple the lake lapped at my baby toes before the waves slapped me down and into her coarse-grained bed, cleanly wheaten and speckled, shallow, this close to where she cozies up to shore. But deep enough for the baby my father forgot, in a sociable moment, chatting up a new acquaintance. Always a talker, my father could make new friends anywhere, while I was learning to love the depths. You'd think it would scare a child, but ever since I've leapt to water as my element, looked behind me to catch a glimpse of the ghost of my forlorn and missing fishtail, forgotten in the rush of the rescue. Okay. So, all right, so I did a suite of salmon poems. This is a few years ago when Seattle Arts Commission asked for artists to respond to the plight of the Chinook. And so I did a series of 5 salmon poems that were to work with the times at the Ballard locks. So, you know, the first one is the first time that they talk about is early, and it's smolt. Well, no, it's the steelhead, and then it's the smolt, and then it's this, and then that, and you know, it's the various seasons of the salmon. So I'm going to read 4 of the 5 poems, and I'm going to start with the smolt poem. They are the babies, you know, and they, as you know, and everybody knows, they are born way, way upriver. It could be 800 miles, it could be 2,000 miles upriver. And then they have to come down to the salt water. So they're born in fresh water, they come down to the salt water. And this is what they do. They go backwards. They wiggle backwards down to the salt water, and they don't turn around until they reach the salt water. And when they do, they turn around and they face their future out in the ocean. And I love that, and that just seemed to me like some kind of a metaphor for our kids. Our kids kind of backing into their future and at some point turning around and facing their future. So, smolt. Being young, I don't know where I go. I face my lake and float backward into my future, trembling on the edge of what I can't yet see. Green shadowed, I go with water's flow and trust strange rapture singing in my blood. Ride the river like a knife's edge, breathe and float, oxygen and insect, cut and rise. I've seen where I've been, so rehearse my return, tracing it in latticed strands recorded in starry lace fabric of night. Current pulls me down to spill over smolt, slide, plunge the plashy fall, slip the snap of gray bird's beak. Turn to face ocean, opening, flat and wide, beyond imagining. Taste first fingers of bitter brine, flick silver and learn salt. Because my throat itches, I swallow what awaits me. Being young, I've cut my heart on the dream of the high seas. So the second poem in this series is called Celestial Navigation. And I learned that nobody is saying this is true for sure, but biologists are exploring the possibility that salmon navigate by the stars. A lovely thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they've always said they know their stream where they were born. Of the many thousands that they're going to meet in this coast, they know it by smell. But maybe the stars too. So I remember the hollowed nest and stream of stars the size of my eyes. I remember the swell of water, shape of light, celestial order to mirror the song of river. The constellations glitter into place to make the map. Scorpio, Virgo, Libra, Canis Major, Sirius, the brightest, Orion, my own clean, cold water over stones, the whir of the earth spinning through starry sky, drag of tide water lifting the estuary, sweet taste of reeds and rushes. Edge sedge grass in dance with wind and water flow, in silver pool pulsing scent, deep home lone, the river where I was born. You can wait to the end of that. And that's very nice, and I always appreciate it, but it's better to wait to the end. Okay, so the August to September time at the locks is for Chinook and Sockeye, and it's also it's the sex time. You know, they're going to go upriver and they're going to have sex. So, and salmon, if you know, have this stripe along the side, and it is it's an organ of feeling. So they get together and they just kind of oh, what was that?
It was the salmon.
A little too excited.
Well, we were talking sex. Yeah. So they get together and they just kind of pulse together. They don't touch. They just kind of pulse together. Yeah. So this is called the river dance. Oh, I broke. I'm going to have to hold it up here because I can't read without it. Okay. Okay. So it's in the salmon hen's voice, the female. Choose the site for depth and current, water flow and roll, turn, push, and burrow gravel, deepen the red, settle in to test the depth. Busy while the males fight to get to me the prize, my hope chest full of posterity. I choose the reddest one, aflame with the crimson color of marriage, torn and tattered but flushing, deep burgundy / bark pattern. I pass back and forth over him, caressing his back and sides, while the others drift away, all their fire fading to dull gray. Crouching together, we hover, pulsing along the thin, dark stripes, our lateral lines, sensing every quiver, throbbing our ancient dance of love and risk, spinning out our lives. We love each other to death. Yeah. And then the last poem is the death poem. Okay. And it's September to October. Coho, Chinook, and Sockeye is the season for the ballard lots. So everything draws down to autumn, and the way light is broken in splintered colors. We are broken to feed the multitudes. Take, eat, this is my body, this is my blood. Eagle and osprey, raven and bear, stonefly and gull tear my flesh. My silt settles and salts the stream. Cedar and fern, algae and fungi, amoeba and protozoa suck a rich soup. My body emptied of eggs, milky milled, settled, completing the circle. Eelgrass and captain, cougar and wraith, creating life from the dead, food for the stream. I feed all comers. Okay, so now I'm moving to the next book, and first poem in the book is about the Skagit, a river I'm very fond of, that I love. Okay, so this is about a place that's up above, I can't remember the name of that place.
McConnell? McConnell?
No. No, I'm going to get to that poem later. This is up to up that wonderful place that.
The San Juans.
No.
Up above concrete?
Yeah, it's up above concrete, but it's a place that is a place you can go and stay. What do you call that place? You can go and stay there. They have classes there.
North Cascades Institute.
Cascades, yeah, so it's up above that.
Ross Lake.
Yeah. So, upriver to Skagit. Here, swiftly, amid broken boulders, house-sized and strewn far below the high cascade, descending almost from heaven. Amid the swirl and rush of water, dashing down and filling the scatter of river-gouged pools, broken necklace of moonstones frothing at my feet. Terraced between brimming turbulence of tumbled stone, slung from who knows where, Anchorage, the Arctic, volcanic events of rocks, unstrung and exploding in the abyss, before beginnings, before we had names, to hesitate only briefly in this watershed, a moment on tiptoe of geological time, before clattering on and the water rushing down, down, down. Yeah. Okay, and now I'm going to the O'Connor. Fishtown, out of O'Connor, was a settlement where people came and built their own little houses of driftwood, and it was pretty much a hippie settlement. But a lot of artists lived there, and it was kind of a historical moment in arts community of Western Washington. So I went with a group of people in a big 18-person canoe to look for it. Well, it's gone. The river changes, it's gone. Yeah, so we didn't find it, but we, went around the river quite a bit. So it's about that. So water rocks under us, water pours over us. From a slate sky, water collects in the bottom of the boat, drips off our hat brims, soaks through our clothes. Purple larkspur shows vivid against rain-blackened rock faces. Columbine in niches clings in shallow soil. Saxifrage shines white on succulent stems. A red-tailed hawk drifts above, looking for lunch. We rock in the river's current. Paddles ready, then all paddles ahead, and paddles rest, shouted from the back of the boat. A mean wind arrives from the south. We're pilgrims searching the ghost of Fishtown, hovering in this Skagit rain. But most shacks have been torn down, the land logged, leaving bare bones or nothing but green. The hopeful artists and scholars of the estuary scattered mostly still around the valley, still making art. All in our 60s and 70s now. Some have passed a life lived for art, as ephemeral as a dance. But many leave a trail of poems and paintings behind. None can quite leave behind the life lived on the Skagit, the youthful hope and dedication. Shacks, landmarks, and channels gone. But rivers have memories, says Bob Rose. Restless, they adjust in their beds. Robert Sund is gone, but his tight little cabin is a refuge from today's rain. We huddle inside and crowd around the wood stove, drink hot tea and listen to Tim McNulty read Sund's poems of this place. Water, river, herons, rain, swallows, mud, and rain again. Even a former resident of Fishtown can't find what was there. The river has changed channels in Fishtown. It's a state of mind. Okay, so when I find it. Brightwater is a water treatment plant. It is literally the most expensive water treatment plant in the world. And it may be the most extensive, the most sophisticated. I mean, they think so. I don't know. But it is on Highway 9 and at the edge of King and Snohomish County. So, up there. And I was asked to do some poems for this place. And I was asked to do a blessing for water and a blessing for the biosolids. And I always say I'm the only poet in the world that was ever given money to write a poem for shit. I'm sure I am. Okay, I'm going to read you, the blessing for water had to be really short because it had to go on, had to be cut out of steel letters this tall. And, you know, so it had to be 4 lines only, 18 characters, including spaces. So, anyway, this is it. No beginning, no end. Circle the earth, blessed water, blood of life. That's it. It couldn't be any bigger than that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read the blessings for the biosolids, which could be a longer poem, and it's on a steel plaque outside the building, and it also every time the biosolids are loaded into a big truck. This is after they're so clean. They are so clean by this point. And they're loaded in big trucks and then trucked east from Washington and put on the wheat fields. So, anyway. So the poem is played to the biosolids every time it's loaded on the truck. Which I kind of love playing to the biosolids. Because people don't hear it at that point. I mean, it's not in a place where people will hear it. It literally is played to the biosolids. So, okay, blessings for the biosolids. For the journey of nutrients, from food to feces to compost and back again, to eggplant parmesan or tabbouleh. Blessings for helpful microbes, mixing juices and decay, their messy business of heating, eating, discarding, transforming one thing to another, the fetid to the fragrant, from waste to muck to rich soil for the fields. Blessings for the biosolids whose elements begin in burning spheres of ancient star systems born of crucibles of burning light. Praise for minerals new mined from stars, connecting any one of us to Nefertiti, Joan of Arc, Attila the Hun, Chief Self, salmon, centipedes, carbon-based creatures all. Certainly the stuff of stars. Blessings for the mighty microbes within the core of us. Blessings for the black gold of rich compost, new cleansed by heat and broken down by fungi and bacteria, dried, transformed, now sweet and loamy, trucked to wheat fields of the Palouse to fertilize our daily bread. Blessings for the earthy cycle, from food to waste to humus, and back again to food. Blessings. I love the cycle. It's just really great to think of that cycle. Yeah. Okay, so where am I? Oh, I'm going to read a more personal one. This is the husbands. The husbands. I married them for all the wrong reasons. One for sex, another for a boat. Though the boat wasn't for me, but for the son left behind from the sex, I married the first one. But it was the daughter I carried inside. When I married the first one, there were others, but they didn't quite count as husbands. The third I didn't even marry. He read me poems in bed and left little behind, nothing of any value. But the pain turned out about the same. And then there was my daughter, steady there through all of it, watching me with blue owl eyes, thinking, is this the way you do it? We had boat enough to teach us of the sea, the beauty of fish, the sun's love for water. The first left me my daughter and my son, both my dawn, noon, sunset, and night. The husbands are all far away now, two into that great good night. Strange to have outlived them. The third off into his own mysteries. They surface in my dreams. Sometimes even the others join in, as lions, as kings, as husbands. They all blend together, vivid, purring loudly and shape-shifting. I love them, or him, the one great husband for whom I am still a wife. All right. And one more in that vein. Yeah. Okay. This is called same story, but it's called Story and Variations. Did I leave him for a classics professor from Chapel Hill? Or did he leave me for a plain Jane of a girl? Wind chill became a factor. There were children involved. The classics professor lasted about a minute. The plain girl pined at the window a long time. He flew to the wild blue. We continued to pass children back and forth. I found a man with a rose between his teeth. Classic, but he didn't know the classics. I left the man with the rose after our tango frazzled. My slit skirt crumpled classically. In time, he left the girl who pined. He flew even higher until even the children didn't ground him. We kept missing each other at assigned assignations. Georgian Bay, lichens living on rock, how could they be nourished? Puerto Rico, paella in the cafe, and tears flourished. Ocean beaches where we walked so far we lost our car. A motorcycle trip of wind and rain, dangerous. Rain hits your face like little pellets of shot. We learned to lean into the turns, then forgot. The girl who pined at the window ended up alone, and so did he, flying solo. The man with the rose tangoed himself to a tangle of fatal temptations. The children grew the best they could, considering. We should have plotted out the story before we passed through. We should have watched where we were going. Hey, I'm going to read one more. Its name is Heaven. Go to heaven after this. But it's about my mother. Okay. When I finally arrived there, after a brief but mortal illness, I'll ask my mother which great-great-grandma, picking spring flowers, choked a bear with her own fist shoved down his throat. And could it be true? It was a story. And for her recipe for turkey stuffing. I'll be weeping just to see her again. I'll tell her what I did with the rest of my life, that my later poems didn't have so much sex, so she could have shown them to her friends without being embarrassed. I'll let her know how the seeds of her stories about Arthur and Guinevere, Abelard and Eloise, flamed at the heart of the troubadour, and that one of my children grew up strong though troubled by the grief of life and her very complexity, and the other grew to become a rare, happy man through his own complications. And how bitter it became that I couldn't ease their passage through the world. She'll remember that as the bitter way of it. How salmon and wolves opened in me, and she'll understand with her own wild heart. I'll tell her none of my marriages worked out except for the children, and that my sisters and I still seek our misplaced childhood in each other, in spite of how bossy I could be as the first child. I'll tell her that now I understand what she meant those many childhood nights when I couldn't sleep, when she told me, "It's all right, you are resting your heart." I'll want to know if birds live there, and she'll name me their flaming colors. Ooh. Can't read without it. And I'm playing the piano again, haltingly at first, but I'm getting it back. That will make her heart happy. The world, I'll say, is still broken. Ignorant armies clash by night and day with less reason than the ones you knew. She'll just nod as if it is no longer her concern, and perhaps it isn't. I will tell her we are orphans in the presence of her absence. And she'll tell me again the story of the girl with the flowers in her hands, the pomegranate seeds, and the underground.